Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and today I'm going to be presenting Project Report 1 Heroes and Legends done by Omar Hassanin Salim. And also, I'm going to be talking about how each given theme is present through each story. So, throughout the Epic of Gilgamesh, we can see that the theme of oppression and tyranny is very clear. So, what is oppression? Actually, oppression is the cruelty or injustice treatment of authority. And also, tyranny is the cruel and oppressive governmental rule. So, actually, they give this same meaning. Also, throughout the Epic of Gilgamesh, the theme is that wisdom and kindness are superior attainments to immortality. And also that immortality may symbolize all self-centered attainments such as strength and power. We can also see how this Gilgamesh changes from the tyrant from a tyrant to hero because God has sent him the wild man to teach him a lesson for his arrogance. So actually, after they fight together, they became friends, and they go on a monster slaying adventure. After they became very close, they became teaching each other lessons of how to be strong and wise. So after that, his friend, which was the wild man, died, and this was very sad for Gilgamesh. So actually, Gilgamesh, at the end of the story, he changed. So we can interpret from that he is a round character. And he changed by the lessons that other people taught. So this is how the theme contributed to change other characters. And this is also clear by the influence that the wild man have put on Gilgamesh. Also, we can see God's role and fate in contributing to change Gilgamesh and to send him this man to change his personality and perspective about life and even his bad traits. So the homework question concerned the debate over the identity of Homer, the authorship of Iliad and the Odyssey. Also, it's especially concerning the Iliad, and the main subtopic of the homework question are who is Homer. So in the Iliad, it's discussing that Homer was probably one of the first generation of authors who were also literal, as the Greek alphabet was introduced in the early 8th century BC. And also the language used in the epic poems is the archaic version of Long Greek, with admixture from certain other delicates such as Ionical Greek. So in the Iliad, it was a part of a group of ancient poems known as the epic cycle, and most of which are now lost to us. They deal about the history of the Trojan War and the events surrounding it. So whether or not they were written down, we don't know that that Homer's poems, along with other poems in the epic cycle, were recited in later days at festivals and ceremony occasions by professional singers who beat out of the measure with rhythm stuff.
And Homer's other major work, the sequel, the Odyssey, were historical accounts of heroic events. The structure of Homer's epics come from the long tradition of oral poetry, so work like this transports readers to a different time, when stories and heroic myths were passed through communities by storytellers with their own spins and styles. These poems are not memorized word for word. Poets improvise from a base narrative structure. The characters, whether historic mortals or representative omnipotent god figures, of which there were many, set an example for Greeks of how to live life honorably. Their messages remained influential through Roman times and beyond. The poet knows the characters and major points of the story and composes the words during the performance and varies them based on context and individual style. The repetition of passages and familiar phrases might seem boring to modern readers, but a master like Homer creatively combines these formulaic elements in a spectacular range of ways. Repetition helps listeners quickly recognize and mentally organize elements of the poem to better understand the overall story. The Iliad and the Odyssey are some of the oldest surviving compositions in any language, and both works continue to remain relevant in academia and literature today. The Iliad is a window into the past, not just because of its centuries-old tale of battle and honor, but because of the traditions of storytelling themselves, a retelling of fantastic oral traditions where mortals were moved by the work of gods in a world of moving and interlocking fates. Symbols like Achaean ships, eating, the shield of Achilles, battle armor, and the eagle of Zeus each speak to deeper, much grander themes: war, humanity, honor and pride, gods and fate, each of which intertwine the wills of the gods with the actions and decisions of men. Homer's colossally influential masterwork continues to be read, taught, debated, and interpreted to this day.
So in the poem The Song of Roland, it simply talks about the legendary battle of Ronachaevax in 778 in his reign, and it's the fight for Muslims stronghold of Saragossa in Spain. And this poem describes that Roland is betrayed by his stepfather and ambushed. He also refuses to call for help, and he puts up a valiant fight, but his men were massacred. So he blows for a call of revenge on his elephant tusk horn. With such force, he dies, and Charlemagne answers back, arriving and defeating the Muslims. So it's a really interesting poem to read, as it's talking about warfare and war, if you're interested in these type of poems. So the major theme or message that we concluded from this poem combines strong pagan themes of heroism, fearlessness, and fealty with Christian ideals of good, evil, and all-powerful wills of God. Also, in Beowulf, we can see the relation also between Song of Roland and Beowulf, because both of them discuss the main idea, which is war, and also they discuss the agreement done between vassals and knights and their lords. Also in Beowulf, it talks about the perfect traits of a hero. So also the poem explores his heroism in two separate phases, youth and age. And also through these phrases, we can see the conflict. So actually, we can also view the encounters of expressions of the heroic codes. And we can see a really clear division between Beowulf's youthful heroism as a unfearful warrior, and his mature heroism as a reliable king. So we can see that courage, bravery, and the will to fight was considered the basic norms of any heroic code. So Beowulf sticks to these norms from the very beginning as he comes across the dance. So Christianity and the feudal system have an extremely important impact on this composition. As in the Song of Roland, vassalage is they say that it's parallel to Christianity, and Roland's ultimate league lord is God, and it is in serving Charlemagne that Roland fulfills his duty as a Christian. Also in Beowulf, a common trait of the Anglo-Saxons warriors were physical strength, leadership skills, and heroic stoicism, which Beowulf demonstrated through this poem. was actually able to slay Grendel's mother by slashing the monster's neck with a giant sword that could only be lifted by a person as strong as Beowulf. So 1001 Nights is a collection of Middle Eastern folk tales compiled in Arabic during the Islamic Golden Age. In English, it's often known as the Arabian Nights for the first English language edition. So we can see that in the story, the major theme or effective theme is good versus evil. Okay, so there is more than one evil. The evil can be the Sultan's former wives, the Sultan himself, or the greedy men of Shahrazad's story. The good can also be the strong woman introduced in Shahrazad's story and the faithful husbands. It's also very clear in the story Aeneid that the major theme is destiny or fate, as they are trying to escape Troy at the beginning of the beginnings of Rome, and also the story tells how Anasus and the few other Trojans escaped the destruction of their city and sailed west, settling in what became now Rome. So this is how we can see that fate is one of the major things affecting the plot. Also in Aeneid, Aeneas is a good Stoic which labors constantly against great difficulties to fulfill his duties. This is a Roman Stoicism, also matches Hesiod's views that the only good person does the work assigned by the gods. Socrates say that the task is to think, using your mind. So first of all, the Egyptian Book of Dead is an ancient Egyptian funerary text generated on papyrus and used from the beginning of the New Kingdom to around 500 BCE. Then we have Medea. So Medea is simply a book which is centered on a wife's calculated desire for revenge against an unfaithful husband. It's actually a play which is set in Corinth sometime after Jackson's quest for the Golden Fleece, where he met Medea. Actually, also the play begins in Medea in a blind rage towards Jason for arranging to marry Glus, the daughter of King Sirone. Last but not least, the Metamorphosis is about Gregor Smassa, a traveling salesman who wakes up one day to find that he has transformed into a giant insect. His family is discussed with him, especially when he's no longer able to earn income. George eventually dies after deciding that he is a burden to his family. So, isolation and annihilation is a major theme in the Metamorphosis. Especially George's physical transformation makes him a creature, stripping him from his humanity in the eyes of his family. George's inability to communicate further isolates him.